This is Jennifer Long reporting for ION TV News in New York City, New York. The American Museum of Natural History, founded in 1869, is indisputably one of the world's greatest museums, educational spaces, and scientific and cultural institutions. With 25 interconnected buildings on Manhattan's Upper West Side, the museum is home to more than 200 working scientists, a world-renowned collection of more than 32 million specimens and cultural artifacts, one of the world's largest natural history libraries in the Western Hemisphere, and numerous classrooms, auditoriums, and other educational spaces. It employs individuals from many different fields and applies their expertise to develop a museum into a well-rounded facility. What exactly is it that you do?
I sell the advertising space in the magazine. I sell the travel category and photo optics, and foreign tourism boards advertise, some domestic states.
I work in the international travel department, and I handle the finances. I set up the contracts, the insurance. I created the reservation system, which we have used for about 13 years. And so I do many of the operational details of the Discovery Tours program, which is a program that travels to 60 countries a year and takes out between 1,000 and 1,500 passengers a year. And it's accompanied by scientists and educators from the museum.
I work for Discovery Tours, which is their educational travel program, and I put together the brochures that we use to advertise the trips. As you can see, I'm working on one right now, which is a trip for Australia. So I use a layout program, just like you would lay out either a yearbook or a newspaper, and I'll put together a direct mail piece that will tell people what the trip is.
To get a deeper look, I spoke with Stephen Quinn, the Senior Project Manager of Exhibition. Is the merging of science and art what attracted you to this position?
I would say yes. My interest in art and interest in science have always been coupled together. I've always had an interest in painting and sculpting wildlife subjects. So at a very early age, I was always interested in the outdoors and studying wildlife. And that eventually led to my pursuing an education in art, graduating art school in 1974 and applying to the American Museum for a position in the exhibition department. I was lucky enough to land a job at that time sponsored by the New York State Council on the Arts program, was training young artists to work with the senior artists. But from an early age, I had an interest in both science and art, and through my high school years, interned at the Philadelphia Academy of Natural Sciences in their exhibits department, fabricating exhibits.
Most notable for the visitor are the museum's 45 permanent exhibition halls. These halls explore the natural world around us, the universe beyond, and cultures of humanity. Each year, the museum acts as trusted guide to 5 million visitors, helping people to enrich their understanding of science and culture and to develop a deeper sense of humanity's place in the larger scheme of life. Who formulates the ideas for an exhibit?
Well, the sources for ideas about exhibits can come from anyone and anywhere. It could be proposed by a visitor who writes a note and leaves it at one of the information desks. It could come from one of our scientists, could come from one of the artists or exhibit designers on staff. All of those ideas are presented to an exhibition advisory committee, which is composed of administrators and scientists, educators and exhibit designers, and they meet and decide what's appropriate and what the schedule of exhibits will be for the next few years. Once the exhibits are decided, then a scientist or a scientific advisor is assigned to each, and an exhibit designer and an editor to develop the exhibit, to develop the storyline and the sequence of what would be experienced and how to best tell the story, whether it's going to be with a video, whether it's going to be with a diorama or a model or a mural. So it's really decided by a committee and then designed and developed by the in-house exhibition staff.
Do you develop a theme for an exhibit, and do you build it around the theme?
Well, again, the subject matter for exhibits can be based on parts of the collection. It can be based on theories or scientific processes, like our exhibit on Einstein, or like our exhibit on the human genome, or exhibits might really focus on the natural environment, like our dioramas. So I would say probably the themes and the development of the themes are really developed in most part by our scientific staff, and where they choose our focus to be.
When the general public comes to see an exhibit, what impact do you want the exhibit to have on them?
Well, that really kind of depends on the type of exhibit. Obviously, exhibits like the dioramas, where there's this simulated environment, the intent is to recreate nature within the walls of the museum, to simulate that experience of close encounter with wildlife. It leaves you changed. It leaves you interested in doing whatever you can to save those endangered ecosystems or endangered animals. The intent of an anthropology show, which features cultures very different from our own, is to open our visitors' minds to peoples that may have different belief systems or different ways of living than our own. And exhibits like the dinosaur halls, they feature animals that went extinct millions of years ago. And there are great lessons to be learned from that. The fact that we as a species could follow that same path if we aren't careful, or to demonstrate that life on Earth has this long history, this evolution of life that has come before us. So really, in terms of what our visitors gain from the exhibits, it really depends on the subject matter and what the scientific staff and the exhibit developers choose to target as what the visitors should come away with.
What is your favorite part of the museum?
Probably the dinosaur exhibit, because I just enjoy looking at all the fossils and the bones and things that they got here. I don't know.
Well, we think the dinosaur area is by far our favorite part.
Why is that?
Well, with our children here, we think it's a great opportunity to see some of obviously the ancient animals that once lived on this planet, and it's I think very well organized, and they have a lot of aids with the computers and the lifelines that they have on exhibit here, and I think it makes it a great learning experience for our kids.
Not only now are exhibitions the driving force of interest, they have been for over 100 years. How does the modern exhibition differ from the exhibition of the early 1900s?
Well, I think obviously now the exhibit designers and the exhibit artists have many more tools to work with in terms of building and as mediums for exhibitry. The American Museum has this long tradition in arts and exhibits from its very founding. It was our decision from the very early days to teach and share the scientific research we do with the visiting public. Other institutions aren't quite the same. Others emphasize collections or research. We, from our very founding mission statement, chose to educate through exhibits. And in those early days, it was, for the most part, and still to some extent today, the display of collections. You come here to the American Museum to see the real thing.
What is the future of exhibition?
Well, I think that there is new medium to explore, specifically the newer technologies, computer graphics, computer imagery, virtual reality effects, and total immersion effects for exhibits, where one might get a sense of actually entering into an ancient environment. There's all kinds of possibilities with exhibitry. However, I think that the tradition of arts here at the American Museum, you will always see the traditional methods complemented by the by the newer technologies. Specifically, I think it's our role really to teach accurate science. And part of the museum's mission is to show the real thing, the real object. This is where you come not to see a duplicate or to see just a video or computer image of the object. This is where you come to see the genuine article.
What a beautiful place. This is Jennifer Long reporting for Eye on TV News.
This is our office. And we have nice modern staplers and state-of-the-art computer equipment. Very spacious.
Thank you.
And this is the way we work.
Very slowly, right?
Isn't that